Okay, boys and girls, we're going to talk about comparative adjectives and adverbs. So let's remind ourselves adjectives are words that describe nouns. So it could be the red, shiny apple. Red and shiny would be your adjectives. Or the fuzzy brown bear. He's fuzzy and he's brown. Or the sad boy. So the boy is sad. Adverbs describe your verbs. They describe how something happened. She spoke quietly. He ran quickly. They can also describe where something happened. He ran to the woods. Okay, so let's read this top part here. It says, add ER to most one-syllable adjectives and adverbs to compare two things. So the big part there is that we're going to be comparing things. So when we compare two things, we add the Add est, est, to most one-syllable adjectives and adverbs to compare more than two things. So when we have three things, we're going to add est. It says, if the adjective or adverb has more than one syllable and does not end in y, use more to compare two things. So we're going to underline two things. And most to compare more than two things. So I'm going to make a little list over here. So if it's two things, one or two things, we're going to add ER or more. And if it's two things or more than two things, so three things, so plus two things, we're going to add EST or most. Okay, so we're going to go through this whole thing together because Mrs. Upton is not meeting with you today to work it through. So I want to make sure you guys really understand it. So we're going to go through the whole thing. It says, underline the comparative adjective or adverb, then circle whether it compares two or more than two things. Okay, so number one, Pete worked harder than I did. Okay, so what is our comparative adjective or adverb? He worked. How did he work? He worked harder. That's the word that's describing. So that's our comparative adjective or adverb. And is it comparing two things or more than two things? Then we're comparing Pete and I. So Pete and I, that's two things. So, and if we look, we have the ER here, and goes with two things. So we're going to circle two things. Ooh, origami. We did origami. His origami creations were nicer than mine. Ooh, I heard a hint in there. So what are we comparing? We're comparing origami creations. So look, that creations tells me it's probably more than one. We're nicer. Okay, so let's underline nicer. They were nicer than mine. Ooh, that's a tough one. But they didn't give us a number. But we're comparing his and mine. So once again, we're comparing two things, and that ER helps us understand that it's two. Good job. The most talented artist won the competition. Okay, what are we comparing? We're comparing artists. And do only two people go in a competition? Do you see a word there that would have the ER or the more or the est or the most? I do. It's right there. The most talented artist. So when we hear most, we know it's more than two or two plus. So we would circle that one. Number 4. Diving seems more difficult than swimming. So what are we comparing? We're comparing diving and swimming. So it's more is our comparative adjective or adverb, and we're comparing diving and swimming. So that would be 2. Remember, 2 has more. There it is. There's your 2. Okay, so guys, that is comparative adjectives and adverbs. If you guys have any questions about it, send Mrs. Upton a text, and I will be seeing you guys on Tuesday next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the time off of school. Bye, guys.